A digital think tank for the wine industry. That's how Paul Mabray describes his Napa-based consulting company that uses strategy and technology to solve complex problems in the wine industry. Paul's been working in the wine and technology industries for 17 years and has been a guest lecturer at the University of California's Berkeley School of Business, UC Davis, that has trained winemakers around the world, as well as at many international conferences. His latest presentation caught my eye, especially his comment that the wine industry is one of the last not to have succeeded online and will experience digital Darwinism if they continue to just watch their customers migrate away from traditional sales and communication channels. Paul, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Natalie. Digital Darwinism, that seems to be the soundbite that everyone's jumped on, but I'm okay. I'm okay standing behind it.
Okay, good. Awesome. Well, before we jump right into that, Paul, why don't we talk about maybe some of the factors that have come together in the industry and just culturally, socially, that have created kind of this perfect storm for social media, maybe starting with the decline of print. What stats are you seeing there in terms of the traditional channels, whether it was wine magazines or wine columns in newspapers, that sort of thing?
Well, we're seeing definitely a decline in wine columns. I mean, there's only about 25 power critics in the world. That means critics that have an audience over 100,000 people, you being one of them, by the way. As a result, we have 150,000 wines that were approved in the United States last year, trying to go through 25 critics. And I don't care what kind of power drinker you are, power taster, that's power taster I'll use is probably a better term.
Well, I use Teflon liver actually, but still, that's too much.
That works too, yeah, exactly. That's a lot of wine.
Yeah.
So it's making it more challenging to get accolades about your wine. And as we all know, that the primary driver is recommendation, whether it's from you or a waiter or a blogger or the Spectator or whatever. The recommendation drives people to buy wine. So.
Absolutely. So we've got 25 really wine-soaked critics, but I mean, there's been lots of bloggers, and where are wine consumers these days getting their referrals?
I think they're getting them from a myriad of sources, for sure. A lot of it, as you move into the younger crowds, meaning Gen X and millennials, are getting them from their social networks and their social circles. Google is definitely the fuel that fires the world. So most people pick up their mobile phone, look into their window into the internet, and there they find the reviews that they're looking for. And that could be a blogger, that could be a review site like Cellar Tracker or Snooth. It could be a wine-specific social network like Drink. So it's in their pocket is where they're getting it from, and it comes from all sources. Generally, Google or your friends. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And so I love the quote that you had in that recent presentation from, I think it was Jeff Bezos of Amazon. And he said, if you turn off your customers in the real world, you know, they'll tell 6 friends. If you do it online, they'll tell 6, or they can tell 6,000. So it's kind of, maybe you could talk a little bit about that, just how things can spread so quickly online, how people are connected, how this just goes viral, to use a cliche.
Yeah, you know, I think it comes down to the fundamental reality of what we exist in today, which is we are in a customer-centric world. And it shifted when Google came out, or search engines in general, but specifically Google, who became the biggest, which is before then you go to a local store within a radius and you try to buy something and you take whatever the recommendation was from the shop clerk or whatever they had as a shelf talker, or whether it was shoes or wine or whatever, and you take the price for granted that, you know, in that local. Now you can, once Google came out, you could search for that product and say, oh my God, the shop owner says that's great, but all these people say it's bad. Or the shop owner says it's bad and all these people think it's great. Putting them in power for their knowledge and acquiring what they wanted to understand. Or it's cheaper 30 miles away. We just have to order it online. Social media elevated that. Not only were we able to find out this information, we're able to share it and share it with the people who can share it and then share it again. And so you can easily make someone upset, and let's say maybe you make me upset or a winery makes me upset, and then Ashton Kutcher sees it and he says, oh, this guy's upset about that, and does it to 1 million people. That could be a bad day at the winery's office. So, you know, so what it means is if you don't have a customer-centric strategy, if you don't understand that service and customers are important, it can go wrong very fast in today's modern age. and they have infinite choice, infinite access, and infinite ability to share right in the moment. You could be sitting at a restaurant saying, I hate this restaurant, the service is so bad, and your 3,000, 10,000, 100 friends are listening to you say that.
And I guess that does have real power because it's your friend who's saying that. Because, I always wondered, or I wondered at the beginning, not anymore, do people really listen online, or do we still turn to the so-called experts? But I guess, the trust factor is that it's your friend saying this.
Exactly. Or even if it's not your tight friends, it's a loose friend that you have respect for or that you share some psychographic interests. So a lot of people on Twitter are not really your friends, but they are following you because they feel that you have an opinion that's relevant to them. And you may miss them on the ticker, but if you catch them, during that time, it could be a wildfire in a sense, trying to put it out and trying to share it. And we've seen it again and again and again in social media madness and affect people's business. So
yes, yeah, absolutely. And that there's companies now that just manage reputations online because it can spread so fast. It is breathtaking, actually. And now, one other point, just before we jump into more of the social media and mobile, you would also, I want to know if I'm interpreting your slides correctly, you talked about events, and there was some mention of drunk fests, but when you talk, or when you think about the traditional wine and food shows or live events, because I know wine is experiential, you need to taste it, but are events not efficient or the primary mechanism anymore either?
Well, look, we live in an age in the wine industry of unprecedented competition. I mean, nothing like this. So everyone, the playbooks of events and sharing that came from the 70s with Robert Mondavi and lots going out and tasting wine with people and sharing why his wine, and the one we chose today, was as great as the European wineries. And so he'd have to taste it and share it. And what happened, it was a great way to get the wine in people's mouths. But as these events move from 100 wineries to 200 to 2,000 to 10,000 in some cases wineries, it's the same impossibility as you drinking 150,000 different wines and remembering or caring. And the other piece is the events became more professional, which is they earn their money from charging people to come to them. So it's I'm paying $50 to go enjoy a bunch of wine with my friends that day at an inexpensive price. I'm not going there to experience and remember the wines anymore. I'm going there to pay an inexpensive ticket fee to sample all these hundreds of wines. And it's supposed to be fun and enjoyable. And whether it's food and wine and the appetizers, these events are very professionally done. And they are drunk fests. I mean, the reality is the effectiveness of them anymore is limited. I'm not saying that endemically. I mean, yes, there are events, and before all the haters getting, oh, my event's so great, there are some great events that do a great job. But in general, for the majority of consumers that go through events, it's gone and forgotten,
Absolutely. I got to agree with you. And my negative indicator when to leave a wine event is when the wine glasses start getting filled with beer and vodka. It usually happens around 4:30 in the afternoon. Not that there's anything wrong with beer and vodka, but it's like, it really is just a party scene. And I don't think that's what, at least wineries who care about reviews or people paying attention to what's in the bottle, that's where they want to be anymore.
Well, they keep doing it. They're still following that playbook, which is very sad. And remember, there's more events than there have ever been before, too. I mean, back in the old days, even in the 90s, there was a limited amount of great events. Now, almost every weekend, there's some wine event somewhere within a 90-mile radius. It's pretty easy, especially in California, New York, major metropolitan cities in the United States.
Right. That's a good point. All right, so, and just before we leap into slow-mo low, which is great. I love that little slogan. I'm a small winery. I make at 2,000 cases. I'm struggling. It's not a high-margin business. Where am I going to find time to tweet and Facebook and track all the conversation? I mean, is that really what I should be doing, or is it only sort of medium and large wineries that need to, or that can afford to do all of this social media stuff? So
that the whole notion of time is ridiculous in some ways. I mean, yeah, it takes time if you're going there to propagate and create new relationships, but at the very barest minimum, it's people are talking at you, you answer them back, just as if you're sitting in the winery and the phone rang and it's a customer on the other end. if a winery doesn't have time to pick up the phone to talk to their customers, they have bigger problems, right, in that sense. So if a customer is saying, I had a great bottle of, pick any winery, it's a courtesy to say thank you. It's a courtesy to respond to them because they're calling you through these social media platforms. And it's easy and cheap and free almost. So.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Although, I found too that social media can be like a 1-800-call-wine-free-service.com. I mean, you can also get a lot of people just asking questions all the time, but I guess it's a balance. I'm not sure how you manage that.
I think you're probably different because you're a celebrity in that sense, right? But when you look at a winery, I can tell you so we power 4,300 brands approximately on our software.
Okay.
And we send out a daily email every time a brand gets one single mention. Just one, right? And we send out about 25% of that 4,000. So if they think they're getting, there's no one that's getting such a high velocity at a small winery level that it's untenable.
Okay.
So I mean that's a mathematical equation and if any one of them gets upset about it or complains, I'm like, you just got one tweet at you. You got one blog post. You got one Flickr mention. You got yeah.
Okay. Point
taken.
Cut
the phone line. Close the doors. It's all done anyways. You're out. Yeah. So and to be even more empathetic about what this means, or more emphasis, not empathetic, more emphasis on this, which is for a small winery, every customer is super valuable. Right, and the as they say, the changing costs of your wine are infinitely easy. It doesn't take there's so many wines out there that them moving to another wine brand is that extra service level to maintain and retain that customer is the moment that's going to help. And you need at a small 500 cases, 2,000, 10,000. Every one of those customers is infinitely valuable to you versus the large guys. So I think it's even more valuable and more focused for them to do that and give that attention. And if they feel they don't have time, it's because they're listening to these social media gurus who are saying, go on Facebook and post and tweet. At a minimum, it's about customer relationships. So.
Right. I got to agree with that because just on a personal level, apart from the professional drinking I do when I go to a dinner party, the most fun is when someone brings a bottle and has a story. So that sort of ties into, whether it's a positive customer experience because the guy or gal in the tasting room talked to me or, or I had this at a restaurant, it was phenomenal with whatever, lobster. It is about storytelling, and you pick up on that too in your presentation, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I was saying, so Doug Cook, who runs Able Grape, who used to work for the director of search for Twitter, has this amazing saying, which is, search is the fiber that connects the web. And what that means is anything you ever wanted to find is now available via Google, whether it's another Google shirt or headphones to replace for my iPhone, any piece, right? You can find anything. But what search doesn't do well is help you find what you're not looking for, and that's what we say. Search is not good for helping you find what you're not looking for.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
For discovering new things, right?
Oh, okay.
So what happens in social media is through this sharing, these are our new editors, and this is our new newspaper. And they're sharing in front of us in our stream constantly via Twitter, via Facebook. And you can almost not say to anyone, hey, have you not discovered something new vis-a-vis Facebook or Twitter? And I know whether it's an article that I had, a product, a musician, an experience, a restaurant, I know that I've experienced all those because I'm pretty heavy, but everyone has experienced at least one of those new things. And those are the new discoveries that occur because of this. So if you're a good storyteller, your job is to get your customers to share those stories with their friends, and then the discovery begins, right, in that process, which Google can't provide.
No, that's true. That's true. That whole context and the story that wraps around the experience. And is that what you mean also by content will be the new advertising?
That's exactly what I mean by content. And Barry Schuller actually says it. I wish I was smart enough to make up that quote.
Just take it.
I just stole it from Barry Schuller, who's much more genius than I am. He's on our board of advisors, and he was the CEO of AOL Time Warner.
Okay.
So, he tells great stories about when he bought Netscape and all kinds of stuff, and you just sit in the corner and just listen. So he's right. Content is the new is the new advertising, and getting people to share that content is the coup de grace of advertising, right?
Absolutely. It's effective, not efficient, but it's effective, and that's...
Well, it can be efficient, too, if you do good content and you distribute it out correctly and you create excellent content. I mean, let's look at the Old Spice ad. Right?
Oh, yeah.
How many times did you see that come into your stream? You know, great content, shared by everyone, funny as all get go. And they don't always have to be funny. They can be all kinds of different pieces. The Coney thing, right? The recent Coney about Coney was the Ugandan warlord, and they did a whole campaign, you know, to help capture him as a war criminal. And it was, you should look it up. It's Coney. It's amazing.
Okay. Yeah. I'll post a link on our under our conversation afterwards, and in case people are curious. But yeah, that's amazing.
Okay, so guy for sure.
Okay. So that, I think, leads us right into your Solo-Mo, and so is social, and we've been talking a little bit about that already because it's tips, sharing, and engagement. What else is it about social that's really key?
Well, I think the problem with social is that everyone's trying to put it in a single box, right? Does it fit with marketing, PR, customer service? And that would be like putting email or the telephone in a specific box, right? It's just a major communication channel across many different platforms who have many different psychologies of use. Like people use Facebook differently than they use Twitter, differently than they use Pinterest, differently than they use YouTube, right? All these have different psychologies. So it doesn't homogenize easy into a department or a function or even ROI in that sense. So that makes social a very difficult thing to understand for people, I think. Right. And I always say, you know, people talk about ROI, which there is definitely ROI in social media, but ROI is tied to what is your strategies and your goals, and ROI does not necessarily mean conversion to sale. Like if I get an advertisement online that gets me 10 times more audience than buying a print ad, my ROI for online is better than my print ad, right?
Right, and yet everyone's fixated on counting clicks or likes, or even with the Facebook likes, which drives me a little nuts. It's like they have the campaigns to get Facebook likes, but it seems circular because you advertise on Facebook to get likes to advertise on Facebook.
You know, likes are, you know, we talk about this thing called vanity metrics, right? It makes you feel good to have those likes. The reality is you're building an audience of dead weight. Because you bought this advertising to get in, and they really don't care and engage about your brand. And the goal of the Facebook fan page is to bring in your advocates and keep a loose connection to them so that the advocacy continues and you can maintain that relationship over time and distance. So adding people that don't make any sense there doesn't add any value. It's like putting a party with no friends and you sit in the corner and talk to yourself, right?
I've been there. No. Yeah. But I even tried, you know, Facebook advertising, and it's like you get all these clicks, but no action. And I just think, I just think when people go to Facebook, they want to connect with their friends. They're not there to, they may be there to research wine, but it just doesn't strike me as that's their primary method, and therefore they're going to really key in on a wine ad. I don't know. What do you think about Facebook for wine, for wineries?
It's amazing. I think remember, it's about connecting to your advocates, to the people who are really fans, real fans of your brand, and there are real fans of every wine brand. Okay. And maintaining that relationship, and you know, and any other new fans that pass by. I always like to say that the Facebook fan page is like a kiosk in the world's largest mall. You want to be there. You want to catch the fans. You want to catch attention of some possibly new fans that join the brand, but always maintaining that presence there so that they're aware of you as they walk by.
Right. And what differs Facebook from Twitter for the wine industry, in your opinion?
Yeah, they're very different platforms. So Facebook is a place where you engage with your friends and you create advocacy against brands. So it's that loose connection. You know, I always joke that people are trying so much to bring sales to Facebook. And it's like going to Las Vegas and those people with the sandwich boards that sell flowers and tchotchke. Yeah, occasionally they'll make a flower sale or tchotchke, but it's mostly because you want them to get away from you because you're talking to your friends. I believe Twitter is one of the most powerful platforms out there, and it's completely under-leveraged or under-thought of. Too many wineries are focused solely on Facebook, and I think it's a very valuable platform if your strategy is around engaging with your fans. Whereas Twitter is the giant answering machine that serves many more functions. And that answering machine is you can listen to, follow a wine celebrity like yourself and engage in a conversation directly with you. You can hear someone talk about your brand because it's an open platform, right? So it's either on or off. You're either a closed profile or you're completely open. So you can hear good customer service, bad customer service. Someone wants to buy your wine. You can listen to your competitors and see how they're doing. You can listen to future business development accounts. So it's got this multifunction. And the difference is when someone talks about your brand on Twitter, they expect you to answer psychologically. If they talk about your brand on Facebook in an open profile, they may like it that you do. They may not. They may feel, oh, because they feel this is not for me to be mined by brands. It's for me to talk to my friends, right? So
right. Wow, it's a very different dynamic, and I know I don't know if it's the medium or what, but I do know that I find most of the writers are very much attached to Twitter, not so much to Facebook. So if you are a winery looking to connect with reviewers, bloggers, critics, and so on, I just find they're all much more active on Twitter.
They're definitely more active on Twitter. Twitter has kind of fallen into this news distribution category. Facebook is still very effective for that same piece too, but not as effective as the Twitter because of that passive following and able to tweet and see all of the context that someone's doing, not to have that limited profile. So it's a great distribution mechanism. And the best wine writers understand that their job is not only to create great content, but to create great audience and distribute content.
Absolutely. It's very efficient. So, Paul, we've done social.
Right.
There's low and mo, local. That makes a lot of sense, especially for wine. Being able to find those wines in my liquor store locally. What else do you mean by that? Is that the central tenet?
It isn't the central tenet. I think the notion of local has to do with, again, another complex issue about what's around you in that location. So maybe you're checking a winery, what other wineries are around you, or you're checking into a restaurant, and there's all understanding that local aspect and local searches. Everything's moving to local to service you, because what we're talking about at the end of the day is consumer convenience. Right? So Google, prior to this localization that's tied to our mobile phone, didn't really understand where we were, or all the services didn't. But now that this local, what we call texture, is attached to Instagram pictures or sometimes Twitter check-ins or Foursquare or yada, 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 you're able to see the universe within a radius that's meaningful to you. So again, it's servicing the customer in that local psychology. Because it doesn't do you that much good to look up a wine and see that it's only available in Bangladesh,
Right.
and you're in Napa Valley. It's kind of like, that's probably not very helpful in that moment, right? Especially if you want instant gratification, which is kind of a human, I don't know, fault or quality that's more common now.
Absolutely. Well, Paul, thank you for joining me today. We're going to get back and continue this conversation.
Okay.
We've only done so and low. We do need to do mo. It sounds like, what is that?
The Three Stooges, Larry Curly.
Yeah, exactly. So we need to continue this discussion, and because it's fascinating, but I want to put it into two parts so that we can fully digest both. So thank you.
No, thank you. I'm enjoying it so much. Thanks.